picked up enough to give him time to find George Kittle. Oh, amongst so many bodies, he ripped it away. So more on the shoulders of the offense, and Brock Purdy, who's looking long. He wants Deebo Samuel, and he's got him in stride.
The San Francisco 49ers get a bounce-back win going up against the Patriots last weekend, as expected. But what we need to talk about is the historical show and performance Mr. QB1 Brock Purdy himself has been putting on, and this is just the beginning of his third NFL season. Now, I understand the 49ers, they sit currently at 2-2, but my God, what Brock Purdy has been doing and the numbers he has been putting up, very few in the history of the NFL have done so. So we got to talk about it. Back at it talking Brock Purdy football. Let's get into it, y'all. Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy, Ryan Tigey, back in action. Brock Purdy has officially entered the NFL history books with the highest passer rating in his first 25 regular season games. Brock Purdy's passer rating through 25 games, 112.6. The next two quarterbacks behind Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, and then Kurt Warner. When we take a look at Brock Purdy's young-lived career, especially him being the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy continues to amaze and exceed all the narrative that's been pushed out there about him. So why don't we dig into the numbers a little bit? Now, again, I always say there's a caveat with stats. They don't tell the full story, and anybody on any side of the argument can use stats to their advantage. I get that. But there are some ones that I believe truly highlight Brock Purdy and him being an absolute weapon for the San Francisco 49ers team. So if we were just to look back at the San Francisco 49ers with Brock Purdy as their official starting quarterback, which was last year, let's compare him to the best quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes. Well, if we were to look back from last season till present day, there's some interesting correlations, and I'm not going to read all the stats that are out there because there's a bunch, but there are three that I think are worthwhile taking a look at. When you just look at their regular season record, Patrick Mahomes, Brock Purdy, they both are at 14 wins and 6 losses. And people cannot say Patrick Mahomes doesn't have weapons. They don't have a good play calling head coach. They don't have a good defense. None of that. All the narrative that has been turned on Brock with the team and scheme, it's safe to say Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, it's a level playing field when you look at Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. So they both have the exact same win-loss record at 14-6. Then, of course, we're talking about quarterbacks. So how does that span out in terms of passing yards? Well, with passing yards, Brock Purdy currently has 5,410 passing yards. Patrick Mahomes, 5,087. That's legit. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about interceptions. Anytime you talk quarterback, whether it's through evaluation or just punditry, you always got to talk about how many touchdowns are they scoring versus interceptions. That's obviously very important. Are you giving the ball to the other team for another opportunity, or are you making plays and scoring tuds? Brock Purdy has 36 passing touchdowns with 13 interceptions. Patrick Mahomes, 33 touchdowns, 19 interceptions. So what this tells us, and I'm not here sitting saying, oh, Brock Purdy, he's better than Patrick Mahomes. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is Brock Purdy, since the beginning of last season, when you just look at metrics, I understand the Chiefs, they have Super Bowl rings. They beat the Niners in the process of doing so. Although I will say Brock Purdy was not the issue. Actually, he was a playmaker in the Super Bowl last year against the Chiefs. But what this shows is Brock Purdy, he is up there with the top tier quarterbacks in the NFL, pushing the ball down the field, making plays, and putting the team on his back. And so still to this day, why is Brock Purdy still not getting the credit he deserves? A lot of it has to do with the national media.
Brock Purdy is the weak link on the team.
The national media, they like to control narratives, not just in sports, basically in every aspect of our lives, which I won't get into those other aspects, especially being as relevant as it is today with other things happening around the world. But it's the same thing with sports. The national media, since Brock Purdy has entered into the league as pick 262, have continued to not give Brock Purdy his credit. Now, there's a few out there that are starting to come around, but for the most part, vast majority of the time, the national media talks about Brock Purdy, do it in a way of with like reservation or with still having a glimmer of doubt that what Brock Purdy has been doing and consistently been doing game after game after game, that there still isn't full belief or faith in Brock Purdy. And so for people that aren't 49er fans, that's what they hear. That's their information source of what they're getting it from. And so naturally people start to buy into that. I like to call that brainwashing, because when you put on the tape, you watch Brock Purdy week in, week out, the guy is an absolute weapon. And so, okay, since I spoke about Patrick Mahomes, and we all know the narrative from the national media obviously talks very favorably about Patrick Mahomes. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes, he's got Super Bowl rings to back that up. So if we were to move Patrick Mahomes from the equation and we pick other superstar quarterbacks around the NFL, guys like Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, the way the media talks about those players who have not done even remotely close to what Brock Purdy's done in the regular season in terms of win-loss record and stats on a consistent basis, let alone not factoring in the postseason and Super Bowls, which Brock Purdy dominates that out of every quarterback, minus maybe Aaron Rodgers, who's been in the league for 20 years, and Patrick Mahomes himself. But when you listen to the media talk about other quarterbacks around the NFL, I mean, shit, Lamar Jackson had a good game last Sunday. There were shows that were leading their programs with, are the Ravens the best team in the NFL? Lamar Jackson played unbelievable. Again, a lot of it has to do with the 262 pick of which Brock Purdy was. And then, of course, people still continue to hold the scheme and team bullshit narrative. Guys like Nick Wright labeling Brock Purdy as a system quarterback. And to that term, system quarterback, I think it's a good thing. You want a quarterback to play within the system, because if you're not playing within a system, what are you doing? You're freelancing. And the other day, Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat McAfee show, and he talked about a system quarterback. And I think it is very insightful to hear what Aaron Rodgers thinks about a system quarterback, considering the narrative that's out there looking at it as a negative. So for Aaron Rodgers, one of the, if not the best thrower of the football we've ever witnessed playing the quarterback position, let's listen to what Aaron Rodgers has to say about what his thoughts are around the term system quarterback. Let's take a listen.
Well, most of us are system quarterbacks. And that's gotten a knock as being like, oh, you're only a system. Some of us can be the system. You can bring a certain type of way of playing, and you add in a cadence or play fake ability or different things that evolves the system. But there's guys that can plug and play.
Well said by Mr. Aaron Rodgers. So for those, specifically the national media and the narrative they still like to kick out, let them do that. That's fine. They'll all look like idiots and have egg on their face when Brock Purdy continues to accelerate and level up at the quarterback position, which in due time will force these pundits like Nick Wright, which I don't understand why anybody likes that guy, but eventually they'll be forced to come around and give Brock Purdy the credit he deserves. But let's pivot to what I've seen from Brock Purdy this season through 4 weeks. Again, the season, there's still a lot of time left in the regular season for teams to shoot up the rankings or to absolutely collapse. But I think there's 3 things that I've seen from Brock Purdy so far that have been not only an improvement, but something that's changing the dynamic of the Kyle Shanahan offense and having Brock Purdy officially start to put his fingerprints on this offense that so many teams around the NFL are now running thanks to the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. The first thing I've noticed through 4 weeks, Brock Purdy using his legs. Brock Purdy has absolutely weaponized his legs and is making plays all over the field with his mobility. To give you a reference, last year in the 2023 season, Brock Purdy had 144 rush yards total. So far through 4 weeks this year, Brock Purdy's at 75 yards rushing. So he's already over 50% of the yards he ran all last year just in the first 4 weeks of the NFL. And it's worked. The second thing that's without a doubt, Brock Purdy is pushing the ball down the field. Currently, Brock Purdy ranks number 1 in 20-plus yard throws down the field. That has dramatically opened up the offense, specifically in doing so, missing his skill weapon players sporadically through the first 4 weeks. So what's funny to me is for a guy talked about as not having a quote unquote big arm, it's a very impressive stat that Brock Purdy is currently the number 1 quarterback with 20 plus yard throws in the entire NFL. And also just in average yards per throw, Brock Purdy also ranks number 1 with 9.3 yards per pass attempt, which continues to corroborate Brock Purdy is chucking that ball all over the field. And what doesn't get mentioned in any of this, the 49ers currently lead the NFL, not in a good way, with deep passes dropped. They also lead the NFL in a bad way with yards after catch, aka YAC. Considering that the 49ers offense, that's what they're known for and have been elite in yards after catch, to be 32 in the NFL is something that should change and will change as Brock Purdy continues to break the mold of only looking for passes in the middle of the field, not taking deep shots when they're there. And so that is something for me, when that starts to pick up for the 49ers, and the skill weapons, the boys, start getting back to who they actually are in terms of leading the NFL in YAC as well as not dropping passes, Brock Purdy's numbers are only going to further accelerate in the 2024 NFL season. And I mean, for fuck's sake, Brock Purdy, with his current passing yards, he is on pace to throw 4,815 yards. Last year, Brock Purdy threw, I believe it was 4,280 yards last season. And Tua, who finished in first place in passing yards, who had 4,624. Brock Purdy is on pace to absolutely shatter what was done last year in a NFL season that offenses were highly dominant. Specifically, as I'm sure you've all heard, the offensive metrics are way down. Pass yards, touchdowns, all that kind of shit. And Mel Kiper went out there and mentioned that the NFL should take away the cover 2 because they just have safety sitting so far deep that there's no big explosive plays. Well, the numbers aren't saying that about Brock Purdy. And then the third thing that I'm seeing from Brock Purdy is just not a metric, it's his confidence. Brock Purdy's confidence is at an all-time high, one we haven't seen from him. I'm not saying behind closed doors, I'm saying out in the open. Confidence and comfortability he has in this offense is something that fires me up probably most out of anything. When you see Purdy go up to Brian Flores during the Vikings after they lost and him saying like, yo man, your defensive scheme is crazy. The confidence to be able to say that and understand what you saw and processed, and the ability to go admire that talking as a peer-to-peer basis, like I'm in your same level, that was something that I absolutely loved to see. Although I wish they got the win, it's still something that you can just see the confidence in Purdy. And when we talk about confidence, if you listen to Brock Purdy's post-game pressers, when Brock Purdy was recently asked after this last game against the Patriots about being a more mobile quarterback and how he's able to maneuver around defenses, let's hear what Brock Purdy had to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my 10-yard split, just to give you guys some perspective, was faster than Christian's and Debo, I think. You guys can fact check me, but that's what I mean. Like, I think I just have enough to get out of the pocket and make a play, pick up 5-7 yards here or there. So I'm not Lamar Jackson's by any means, but anyways, just do what it takes.
You think this guy feels comfortable where he's at with this offense? Yeah, I'd say so. And I would say the best part about all of this, Brock Purdy has been doing it without his premier weapons. I've already mentioned it before, the bullshit team and scheme that people like to do with the labeling of system quarterback. Brock Purdy, he's been doing it without his premier skill players consistently on the field. And you want to talk about something that can give you a confidence boost for somebody who understands and knows I have some of the top guys in the NFL that I'm throwing to with Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, Brandon Ayuk, to be able to still perform at the highest level without your top guys when all the narrative says, oh, it's the play caller and it's the skill players that he's throwing to be able to do that without those guys, regardless if it turns into a win or loss, Brock Purdy has not been a problem in any of the games. Not one. Yeah. Has he missed some throws, had some bad reads? Yeah, like every quarterback does. Brock Purdy has carried this team so far, specifically when he's been without his skill players. Not to mention the record doesn't necessarily reflect Brock Purdy's performance because there's been multiple opportunities from other players, whether it's on the offense, defense, or special teams, that have ultimately caused the 49ers to lose, which is why they sit at 2-2. But again, it was a bounce back game against the Patriots that was absolutely dominant and a good course correction for the 49ers as they look into 2 upcoming games against the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks on a short week, but they got the Arizona Cardinals coming up next, 2 NFC West division games. So for the 49ers to get that last win against the Patriots, that is absolutely massive. Men versus boys type game. But the most promising thing I continue to see from Purdy, and it's gotten better over the years, he's making every throw. I mean, the guy, outside of his mobility, when you see him scramble, whether it's he's getting pressure or the pocket's muddy and he's got to get out of there, Brock Purdy consistently is hitting throws. 7-step drop back, 5-step drop back, short, middle, far. I mean, Brock Purdy, we've seen on multiple times just through the first 4 weeks, him running to his left, his ability to stop, reset, and still throw a strike down the field. That is extremely underrated, I would say, by most people watching NFL, understanding how hard that is to do, especially when you got a 300+ pound man coming to rip your head off. So he's been making every throws. He's added another tool to his toolbox with his mobility, which is causing defenses to having, or they better start respecting his legs. Something I noticed from the Patriots, because you have to understand, the 49ers, they've been an absolute headache for the NFC.
There's nobody in the world that I'd rather kick their ass than the 49ers.
So you know what coaches have done? They have studied the 49ers offense excessively, trying to figure out ways to stop this high-flying offense. And something that I noticed from the Patriots, on multiple occasions, the Patriots, they weren't playing a traditional coverage, a Tampa 2, a cover 3, basic general defenses that we see ran in the NFL all the time by every team. You saw Patriots players that clearly running 2 spots on the field, which is why multiple times Brock Purdy was able to hit deep shots against Patriots. The Patriots were running essentially schemes based off 49ers tendencies. So yes, everybody knows the 49ers have had extreme success hitting Brandon Ayuk on a deep over route in the middle of the field, the vertical stretch on the safety. It gets 9 times out of 10 that play hits throughout the game. It's very consistent. And you saw multiple times the Patriots defenders, whether the Patriots safeties, where they would not honor the vertical that was running, like on the pass against Debo or Juwan Jennings, they were running to spots based on 49ers tendencies, because you saw it multiple times throughout the game, through all parts of the game, where they were literally running to spots based on where they know the 49ers historically have liked to throw the ball. And what is Brock Purdy doing in real time? Understanding the coverage, processing, which he is fucking elite at, and connecting with throws we normally don't see him take. So the fact that we're witnessing Brock Purdy being able to do that, because now what our defense is going to have to do, they're going to have to honor the deep shot, which is huge, because defenses going against the 49ers, they haven't had to do that, because the 49ers, they didn't do too many of those, because defenses were sticking to their actual assignments versus going based off tendencies. So it's only going to get better. And I absolutely love how QB1 Brock Purdy has been spinning the pill. All right, y'all. I just had to jump on here, give my props and shout outs to Brock Purdy himself. I'll be back. 2 divisional games coming up in a quick span of a couple days here. Fired up to watch the 49ers go against 2 NFC West division rivals. I'll be back, but until my next video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. Hit me up. Peace.